Have the Arizona Cardinals reached their ceiling?
Well, what we saw last night wasn't their ceiling. I think earlier in the season with DeAndre Hopkins, that was this team's ceiling. But the fact that they're so dependent on a single wide receiver, I believe, is an indictment not only of their offensive system, but the entire roster. You know, we try to blame one person after a collapse like this, but this was an institutional failure. You saw a quarterback who was panicking under pressure, a head coach that I believe took too long to make adjustments when his offensive line was getting obliterated by the Rams' pass rush, and then a roster that lacked depth. And I want to key in on that and the job that Steve Keim, the GM, has done, because all season long, when Stephen A. was putting this team on the top of his A-list and trying to sell them as a Super Bowl contender, I expressed doubt week after week because I saw a lack of depth. You saw it on the offensive line. You saw it in the wide receiver group. You saw it in the secondary. At linebacker, going back-to-back with those off-ball linebackers who couldn't even see the field because they didn't trust them to stop the run. And that's what concerns me so much about this team going forward, going back to the original question about their ceiling. I look at this roster, and I don't see them getting better, and that's a problem.
I think when you look at it, Mina and Stephen A., I think they have reached their ceiling for a number of reasons for me. Number one, I've never been in favor of the style offense in the National Football League. They started to run the football a little bit better. There's no question about it with Edmonds and Connor. But at the same time, like you mentioned, Mina, you're dependent on DeAndre Hopkins as a wide receiver to do certain things. And let's just talk about last night's game. Jalen Ramsey, for whatever it's worth, cancels DeAndre Hopkins out. DeAndre Hopkins still catching passes, doing whatever he's doing. But he's not going to have a game that is going to take over the entire situation for the Arizona Cardinals. Then you look at the quarterback situation, and I hate talking about Kyler Murray because people think that I genuinely dislike this young man, and that is not the case. The only thing I try to do is point to the facts. There is a reason big quarterbacks survive in the National Football League. There's a reason they are coveted. Yes, you have outliers. You have a Drew Brees. You have a Russell Wilson. But outside of that, the smaller quarterback is not successful long-term in the National Football League. How many games has Kyler Murray missed since entering into the NFL? That is a problem. When you have a team that is in a position to win and get a number one seed, but then all of a sudden the quarterback gets hurt. Now what? What do? If this comes up every single year, what is that doing for the Arizona Cardinals? Every year he's missing time due to injury. So when I look at it, and much like you mentioned, Mina, in-game adjustments from Cliff Kingsbury, Boy Wonder. He was supposed to be the guy that dialed it up. He was supposed to be Sean McVay. Well, clearly, too many times we've seen him not be Sean McVay. So to me, the Cardinals have reached the ceiling. Doesn't mean that 4 years from now, all of a sudden, they don't make the playoff or they make the playoff and make a playoff run. If you go back to Cliff Kingsbury's history as a coach, even in college, second half seasons, disasters. I mean, under 500. Ridiculous.
Here's where I'm at with this. First of all, Mina, I appreciate your pointing out about, my giving Arizona props, because you're absolutely right. And I'll take that coming from you, Miss Seattle, Miss Seahawks. I'll take that. I'll take that from you. I'll take that from you today. I'm going to tell you, though, I don't think the Cardinals' key has reached their ceiling because I believe in Kyler Murray. I believe that Kyler Murray could be better. I think that last night he was atrocious. Yeah. It was the worst performance I've seen of his career. I've never seen Kyler Murray look as bad as he looked in that first half. It was complete panic, and we've never associated that with him. We've seen poise. We've seen his ability to motor. We've seen his wheels. We point to those kind of things, and we said, okay, you know what, some might not work out. Some things may be more successful than others, but we've never seen him look in over his head so flagrantly as he was last night, particularly in that first half. I don't recall ever associating the word atrocious with one of his performances until last night. But I'm glad you brought up Cliff Kingsbury, because this is what bothers me. I think Cliff Kingsbury, for the most part, did a decent job this year. Obviously, it was a hell of a lot better first part of the year, but you end the season losing 3 straight, 4 or 5, or 5 of your last 6 games. You obviously nosedive at the tail end of the season, but the first part you were relatively successful. I'll give you props for that. at a time where we just finished talking about how there's only one black head coach in the National Football League in 2022, what bothers me about the Cliff Kingsbury element is that no matter what job you did and no matter what props I'll give you, you never deserved the job. On the collegiate level, what did you do? You were average. You went to a bowl game a couple of times in 6 years, okay? You didn't have a winning record in your time in college. Yet you the golden boy that just leapfrogs over a whole bunch of white and black coaches in the National Football League that were far more deserving of the opportunity, that had, at least their resume tells us, they could have done a better job with a Kyler Murray, and somehow you get that job and y'all nosedive like this. So I think last night, to some degree, was chickens coming home to roost, because I think if you had a better coach, they would have been better prepared. Kyler Murray wouldn't have looked as awful. Maybe A.J. Green would have had a catch. Maybe Zach Ertz would have been utilized well enough to have more than 3 catches for 21 yards, okay? And we'd be looking at a team that was far more competitive than they were last night. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.